if you know me, you know that I love anything related to journaling. So, of course, I'm going to offer my own online store where I have a planner, journals, a different version of the planner, and some cute notebooks. The journal was created in a season where I was seeking for outside validation. And as you can see, I use it. And it's just the three things that are important to me, not the to-do list, but what really matters, something that I'm grateful for, something that I'm proud of, something that I dream of, and something that I pray for. Something simple but effective. And then the planner, I say, is a conversation with yourself all month long, because you have the vision board of how you want the month to go, then what you're tracking through the a daily tracker, and then at the end of the month you have a summary, and then it's what made you happy, what are you proud of, or what can you improve. And the notebooks is just a reminder for people, to get into journaling and do your own thing. So they're adorable. So anyways, you can check them out at butterflydreams.co. That is butterflydreams.co. And for first time customers, I have a 15% off coupon. You just write first purchase. Hope you have a blessed day. Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Francie. That's me, where you can find talks about mental health, life, business, sometimes fun, depends on the episode and or the guest. I love to bring a more positive energy. Let's learn from one another and build a community of people supporting each other. Thank you for being here. I hope you enjoy this episode. Now, let's get the show started. Today's conversation was thanks to Podmatch, an amazing community for podcast hosts and podcast guests to collaborate with each other, and it has tools and resources. So if you are in the podcasting world as a guest or as a host, that's the place to be. On today's episode, we will have the pleasure to get to know Charisse Walker, who is an author, a coach, entrepreneur, real estate enthusiast, and a podcast host. So today's conversation will have a little bit of everything, topics around relationship, real estate. So I'm just like excited to to get to know her. So let's welcome her to the show. Tell us, what is life with you?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. It's been a minute, and so I'm just great and very grateful to be on your show. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
So
tell us a little bit about you.
right. So I live in Utah right now, and I'm a mother to 6 children. And so that can keep me pretty busy. But I used to be an executive in the proprietary education industry. So I opened up a college, I directed several colleges, and I got out of that to be able to be a stay-at-home mom. But I'm not that type of person where I can just stay home and do that. So I actually got my real estate license, and I've been practicing for several years. And then I got my lender license. And I think the thing that really propelled us to the life that we have today is that we were in the hole $400,000 and on food stamps because of 2 investments, one with a family member and one with my best friend, and they left us financially destitute. And so because of that, we got into real estate investing and pulled ourselves out and are doing very, very well. We have multi-million-dollar industry portfolio. And then because of that, I decided, because of my education and teaching when I started at 22, and then because of real estate and what we've been through, my goal is to empower women, specifically that have been through divorces or moms that really want to pursue their passion and their dream, because I truly believe that you can accomplish anything that you set your mind to. And I want other people to be able to accomplish what they dream. So
I
that's a
love
little about
that.
me.
I love your mission and passion, because, like, yes, dreamers. I'm a dreamer and future enthusiast. You like, I'm like super excited. What is happening? I don't know what's happening today. Today is a lot, but tomorrow I got this.
Right.
Yeah, and then with that, how did you start the podcast too?
So I started, so I have a virtual assistant, right? And so
Yeah.
she's like, Therese, I'm getting into podcasting and stuff. I really think that you should start one. I'm like, oh, one more thing on my list. But it really, to me, it's a community, and I have met so many people that all over the world, actually, and to listen to their dreams and to listen to what they've accomplished. To me, my goal is to be able to help because I love business. I have a master's in business, and so I love taking a business and like trying to build it, and specifically for other people. That used to be, I was going to go get my PhD. I started, but some things happened. And I realized I don't have to have a PhD, right? Tony Robbins doesn't have a PhD. And so I don't have to get the PhD. I have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in education in the last couple of years, and I have surrounded myself with phenomenal mentors. And so for me, it's like I've acquired 3 PhDs because of that. And so I decided, in talking with a lot of my clients and in talking with other people, that they really struggle, and sometimes it's hard to see like where you're at. And so if you have an outside perspective or somebody from the outside who's done it before, then they can help you. And so because of that, I got into Unbreakable Mompreneurs is my podcast, and it's to help moms who are entrepreneurs build their business. And so we talk about how to juggle that, sometimes being a mom and an entrepreneur, how to build your business. We talk about SEO. I mean, you name it, we talk about it on the podcast.
Do you have any advice for us when it
Mhm.
comes to doing that? Because I just went last year from living on my own
Uh-huh.
to now there's 5 bonus kids from
Wow.
19, 14 to 14, no, 15. Anyways, there's a lot.
Mhm.
8 and 5.
Wow.
How life is crazy, and a full-time job that takes him
Yep.
most of the time. So, any
Yep.
advice for busy moms?
Yeah, so I was my first 2 were twins, and so I was on bed rest for 4 months. I was working full time. My husband at the time refused to get a job and to support the family, so I was on bed rest on long-term disability, and literally I had the kids 4 weeks early. I was able to stay home with them while they were in the ICU for a month, and then it was like 3 weeks after I had them, I ended up having to go back to work full time. And so that was tough. And then a couple years later, I ended up having another child. And when I came off maternity leave, she was 3 months old, and my twins were not even, well, they had just turned 3. And I was told by my boss that I had to go back, or I was going to lose my job because I didn't have my master's. And although I didn't, I was grandfathered in. I really thought, I'm not going to let that be an excuse that you can get me out. And so because of that, I enrolled in college full time, like back to my master's. So I was teaching full
Wow.
time. I had my 3 kids under 3, brand new baby, and now I was enrolled in my master's program. And I look back and I go, oh my gosh, how did I accomplish that? But my advice to you is that you really need to have a purpose, have a why. Because if you don't have the why, like that's the first thing. And it's totally a generic, canned answer, but it really is the truth. Because that, I took a 24-month program and finished it in 15 months. So I doubled up on the program
Wow.
as well. And I mean, it changed my life, that alone, because I was able to then become the director and then open a college and stuff. And so I I cannot stress to you, you have to have a purpose. And so my purpose at the time was making sure that I could support my family. Because fast forward a couple more years, I was now a single mom, opening up the college at the exact same time that I split with my ex-husband. And so that really was my purpose. Like nothing can get you through unless you have a reason to get out of bed every single day. And I think, I have a lot of family members that deal with depression, suicidal thoughts, and those are things that are so heavy. And I always say, like, what's your purpose? What's your why? Like, we've got to focus on that. So that to me is the advice, and to take it a day at a time and enjoy the journey. Like if you keep looking, oh, I can't wait till I graduate, or I can't wait till I do this, or I can't wait till I do that, you're missing your journey. And so that's where I love how you talk about gratitude, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, in a minute. But because if you don't enjoy the ride and you're not grateful for the path that you're on, then what's the purpose of life, right? We're here for a purpose. I believe super religious. I believe we're here for a reason, and we need to accomplish that mission. And so enjoy and make sure that you can learn every single step of the way.
I absolutely love that. And yes, enjoying the journey sometimes is hard to get there. I'm
True.
learning about it because as a postal worker,
Right.
It's very hard to enjoy my job. Like today is my day off by the time we're recording this podcast,
Mhm.
and my work wife called me with some tea,
Of
and
course.
I was like ready to fight. And I'm like, why am I fighting? It has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
I am on my
Right.
day off.
Mhm.
So sometimes it's hard to enjoy the journey. You're focusing on everything, earthquake, tornadoes, hurricanes that are happening to near you. But yeah, having a why, having a vision of where you're going, that's what is going to give you the drive to keep going, especially when at the beginning you feel like you're not talking to anybody. You're all alone with your mission. And I love that you said that you have a virtual assistant. I have one as well, because we can't do this on our own.
Exactly.
We
Yep.
have to find the right people, even if it's like I called her, I had a grown up assistant where she was doing all the errands and things that
Yeah.
I couldn't
Mhm.
do. But then once I needed help with the tech, technical side or whatever, all the behind the scenes, it was time to hire a virtual assistant to help me with the podcast and all that stuff. And with how much I work and everything going on in my house, there's no way that I can do this on my own. So saying that I, I asked for help and I got it, that's
Mhm.
a huge one. Because why do women take forever to ask for help?
Oh, I know. It's this cultural thing that we have to have all these balls up in the air. And my current husband has probably been my best teacher about this because he comes from a family where you delegate everything. Everyone else does everything. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. What I'm saying is it's been a huge lesson because like when I was running a college, I had 22 programs from diploma to bachelor, and we were working on getting a master's, and we had nursing programs, dental hygiene, like these heavy programs that had to have accreditation, and hundreds of employees and hundreds of students. And there's no way I could have done that all. But sometimes I would try, and I'm like, wait, I got to trust my directors in these areas. And I want to go back to one other piece of advice. This is something when I was first opening up the college, like, I don't know if you're familiar with Chicken Little, that movie. The sky is falling,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
sky is
yeah. Oh,
falling.
I
Right?
always the sky is
So,
always falling around me.
right. So I'm writing a book. It's called Flipping the Iceberg, and I talk about this in my book. Actually, I'm not writing. I've written a book. It's actually, by the time this airs, it'll be out. But anyway, we talk about locus of control, right? And so I remember one of my program directors, she came into my office and she's like, Charisse, because we were going to have accreditation and they were going to be there the next week. She's like, oh my gosh. And she starts listing off all this stuff. And I look at her and I just started laughing. And she goes, how can you laugh at a time like this? And I started laughing because for me, emotions, I don't cry, I laugh and then I cry. And so I said, okay, here's what you have to do. So you have to like put your arms out. So stand up, put your arms out, and do the Wonder Woman. I'm old. So the
Yeah.
Wonder
Oh,
Woman,
wait,
Linda
no.
Carter, she like turns in a circle and she turns into Wonder Woman, right? Wonder Woman. So anyway, that is what I think of with locus of control, because you can't control anything else than what you can do here, right? And so if your kids are doing stuff, because I have a son that's supposed to graduate in 3 weeks. Oh my gosh, just
Oh,
right?
teenage boys are
Yes.
amazing. I have two at
Well,
home. We're having a blast.
I know, but add to it special needs, right? And so it's
Oh,
just like, oh my
yeah.
gosh, like just turn in the assignment, just go talk to your teacher or get to school on time. Like, don't take 20 minutes to get ready in the morning, to put on pants, right? And so it's like, he is pushing my locus of control like crazy right now because I cannot control that. I can't unless I dress him myself. And so another piece of advice is like you can't control the tornado that you mentioned. You can't control the hurricane, but what you can control is your response to it. And so if I say this all the time to people that why get so worked up like the lady at your work wife? I love that you use that words because I used it too. You can't control anything. You're not there. And so why give it energy? Why give it emotion? Why take the time and get so worked up over something you have absolutely no control over? Let it go. And because of that, I've learned that like my stress level and is so much lower and my health is so much better because of that. So sorry, I went on a tangent.
No, I love that. And I get it. I understand. Yeah, it's the reaction for me on my mental health. Uh
Yeah.
Once I did the evaluation, now I can have the grace and compassion of,
Yeah.
like, okay, somebody came in, and it's
Yeah.
like when she told me about, yeah, I have everybody around me gets a nickname. Sometimes it's because I love them, and sometimes it's because like Mr. Military, and she was talking to me about Mr. Military, and it's not for respect. I respect the military, but it's just that he brings that energy to
Right, right.
work, and you mention him, and I'm like, let's go, let's do this. And I'm like, has nothing to do with you. You
Yep.
deal with that on Monday, but it's hard to detach
Yeah.
from that. And like I said, at work, when they come at you with your energy and all that stuff. I talk about my bubble. I like that you did the
Yeah.
example
Uh-huh.
because I am very protective of my
Yes.
bubble.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Don't come in my bubble without permission, and
Exactly.
don't
Exactly.
have bad energy around me and
Yeah.
be near my bubble because we're going to have a problem. So it comes from
I
trauma.
love that.
So
And I have
so
similar.
but I learned about boundaries, and
Yeah.
it goes a lot better. I just went to work not to by the time I record this interview, I had just come out from my Puerto Rico trip, and my
Yeah.
coworker was like, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah," because he was gonna go and give me a hug, but you understand, nah, a hug it. Let me not reject you. So think
Yeah.
about that first. But it's all other reaction. So I love that you mentioned that.
See, I love
um,
that because I used to be like the most shy person ever and the biggest people pleaser. And because of that, I mean, I had actually been diagnosed with MS. So by the time that my ex-husband and I had split, I had had heart surgery and I'd been diagnosed with
oh
MS.
wow.
And I was dying. And it's because I let this person be so toxic and like control so much. I didn't realize how much control I had given him until I broke away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't need to go into that. We are
Mm-hmm.
friends as long as it stays on the surface. Hence the reason my book is called Flipping the Iceberg. But I just think that when you give so much and you don't set those boundaries, you do become unhealthy. And so kudos to you that you've done that. And I am a much happier person and much more outgoing because I'm now more confident in myself. And I've
Mm-hmm.
accepted the fact that you do you and you are totally entitled to your opinion. And I'm no longer going to worry about what you think of me because that's on you. And if I never, my personality, I never want to ever hurt anybody. I'm here for, if you ever need something, I will be there for you. But I'm not going to worry about trying to please you anymore. And that was the most freeing thing I probably have ever done. And about 4.5 years ago, I just said enough. And it was great. I'm happy now because of it.
I love that. Yeah,
Mhm.
you learn to set those boundaries, and it's like nobody teaches us that as a kid.
No.
Boundaries, self-love, what? That is like the most selfish thing that you can do, but it's like no, you need to
Yeah.
love yourself in order to
Yes.
love other people. It starts
Yes.
with you, because if you
Yep.
can't stand the person that is in the mirror, then you're
Exactly.
going to have a problem with everybody in the world, and we don't want
Yes.
to do that. But yeah, tell us more a little bit about your books. Book.
That actually is it. There's two
That's
parts.
it? Okay. And
I mean, it
does
really, there's two parts.
you said by the
Like,
time the interview will be
yeah,
live, it will be published?
May 16th of 2024. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And it's actually in the publisher sheet. I sent her a whole bunch of revisions. So she's fixing all the formatting and then, yeah, it'll go to publish. So May 16th is our launch date. Yay.
I
But
love that.
I believe, obviously, I've been through divorce and I never thought I would. And that was enough trauma right there. It took me 8 months to finally say, okay, enough is enough. So I firmly believe that, and the statistic is higher, but it depends on what statistic you have. 50% of Americans, actually worldwide, end their divorce or end a marriage and divorce. And then if it's a second marriage, it's 68%. If it's a third marriage, it's in the 70s to 80s. And then if you cohabitate before that, I mean, like I can give you all these statistics. My point is, I'm here to save marriages. And I believe that the way that we can save marriages is first, like you said, you have to heal yourself first. We all have trauma in our life. And it's funny because I'm working on my workbook that goes with my book.
Nice.
It takes you on tons of examples and like it really makes you dig deep because I didn't realize all the trauma in my life. I chose my mate the first time because of that. And kneeling across the altar and hearing a voice in my head say, Charisse, get up and run. And I'm like, what? Huh? Like I knew it was wrong to begin with, but I didn't have enough guts and confidence in myself to end it at that point. And so, and I knew I shouldn't have before. And so if you can heal your trauma, you can make a healthy decision. That's step one. Step two is that now that you are comfortable with yourself, now you need to get to know your partner. And so the trauma, like you deal with, it's kind of like it just sits in the water. And for an iceberg, 10% is above the water, 90% is below it. So you don't like the Titanic. It was this tiny little thing. You didn't think it was a big deal. And it just ripped hole after hole through these watertight compartments. And so it sank in a matter of 2 to 3 hours, right? And so I think of a trauma kind of like you are your relationship, and it's going to sink it if you don't take care of it. So again, going back to that's number one. Number two is that you need to make sure that the person that you're dating is really the person you think they are. And I 100% believe that they're
Mm,
not. And because we all put a surface, like our appearance. And here's a good example. How are you?
good,
If someone comes to you and says, how are you? What do you say?
good, good.
Yeah.
Well, usually
And
my
are you
true
really?
response is like, "Ah, you don't want to know."
Exactly. But we all say this, and it's this American conversation that now is a huge annoyance to me. It's like, how are you? Good, good. How are you? Good. No, like, why don't you just say hi? Because that good, 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 it's fake. It's not true. And it's this culture that we've created. Like, I try that. If you want an experiment, do this. When people ask, how are you? Do you want that real answer, or do you want me to just give the surface answer? And because they don't know how to respond. And some people who truly care, they're like, no, really, I want to know how
I,
much time you have.
can I give you one example? Because this
Yeah.
lady at this grocery store, I am very sassy. I am very sarcastic. I am my own person
Right.
anyways. I'm at the
Mhm.
grocery store, and like I said earlier, I always say, "Oh, you don't want to know." The whole body language changed, and she was like, "Oh no, sweetheart, you got my full attention. Do you need to talk?"
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry, grandma. I didn't want to traumatize you. I was just being funny." But I had never had anybody like seriously change the whole thing and be like, "I'm present, I see you, I hear you." I mean, I have never felt more loved by a
That gives me
stranger than I
goosebumps.
did. Like, it still gives me,
See, and that's
it's really hard to find that.
yeah, it is. And if you want to make an impact on somebody else, your answer is, I want to know how you really are, because that's what happens. And so getting back to the book, my goal again, flip the iceberg, because they're going to show you the 10% above the water. They're going to put their best foot forward. And so in the book, it's a huge, long, like, and when I say huge, long, it just asks you tons of questions. And so the acronym is flipping for the trauma part, and then iceberg would be for the relationship part. And so my goal is not to end a relationship, but before you say I do, you guys actually really know who you're marrying, not like, oh, I never knew that, or oh, I wish I would have known that. And so that's the whole goal of the book, is to make sure that you have healthy, lasting marriages. And you do that by making sure that you flip the iceberg and know who you are and who the person is. So that's the book.
I love that, and that is great advice because, yep,
Yeah.
sometimes people just go into marriages and uh, for whatever reason. And what was it? One of the Kardashians was like 72 hours. I
Yeah.
think that's like one of the
What,
marriages.
what is
Like
that?
crazy.
And if you
uh,
think about it, there's a statistic 2.4 million people are going to divorce every single year. And it's actually like every 8 seconds. It's just, it's sad. And if you think about all the kids, like nowadays, if you do research, because I'm a sociologist, if you do research, children nowadays, 70% of the dating process is cohabitating. So there's not even a commitment because they're afraid to get married because of all their parents screwed them up by getting divorced. Hello, that's me. And so,
yeah, yeah.
and if you don't talk about that with your children, if you don't fix that, then there's issues. And so I don't know, I'm on a mission to change marriages.
And I love that. And just giving a different perspective because a lot of people like are seeing it more like as a joke
Yeah.
than an actual commitment. Like, commitment, what is that?
Mhm.
And like, I get it. In my situation is cohabitating
Mhm.
because yeah, it's three people, and three is children of divorce. So
Yeah.
we just have a different perspective in life. And my perspective is I came from a huge family and
Okay.
I have seen it all. I
Yes.
have seen it all. So what works for me is what works
Mhm.
for me, and that's what I'm happy on right
Yeah.
now. But I
Right.
do believe in marriage, and I do
Mhm.
believe in the importance and the commitment and
Right.
all that stuff for generations down the road. It's
Mhm.
a different feeling. It's a different feeling. But I wanted to see, do you want to say anything about your coaching
Yeah.
business? Because we haven't touched
Yeah.
on that yet.
Right. So I coach it's a few different ways. And so my goal is just to help people achieve whatever they want in their life, right? And so when it comes to real estate, like if you want to create passive income, and I can tell you the story another day, but it's called Fly Free Retiree. And so I help people, I coach in 8 different ways. And so if you don't have any money, to if you have money and you don't want to do anything with that money, like that's the gamut that I can show you 8 different ways that you can invest in real estate. And like just yesterday, it's not a huge check, but I got a $1,400 check in the mail because I
Heck
don't know if
yeah.
we can, no FTC, but my point is like just not having to do anything, right? And so there's ways that have actually helped us change our entire life and created freedom that we never thought possible. Like my husband was able to quit his job a couple of years ago and he worked with me for a year because he didn't have to work this horrible job that was treating him horrible. And then he ended up deciding he hates real estate. And so he went back to his industry, but he's making great money because of that. And so I help people in the real estate realm, and then I help people with business, and then obviously relationships. I'm currently like I'm not a licensed practice, and that none of that. But we will be talking about some of the things we talked about. And if you're like, I want to be careful. If you're cohabitating, that's fine. It's the commitment and making sure that
Mhm.
eventually you get to that point where you can have that. You feel comfortable enough to make that commitment, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really the coaching is going to come with what are your dreams? What are your goals? How do you want to accomplish things? And let's get you there. So that's what I do.
I love that. And yeah, I get about the real estate. My one of my friends just posted a huge list
Yeah.
of what a real estate agent does. And I was like, oh my, that's not what YouTube says.
I know.
YouTube
And
make
you can
it look
see,
so
yeah.
easy that you can do
Mhm.
it part-time. That list does not sound like a part-time job at
Uh,
all.
uh, and I am a full-time realtor. And so I do all of this other stuff. I do work a lot because I love it. That's my why is helping other
Mhm.
people. I think when I was a teacher, I remember having taught these, they're mostly males, walk across the graduation stage. And I had taught them, some of them between 6 and 8 times because I taught a lot of general education in these classes. And I remember the very first time that they walked in and they're like, I've never been told I'm good enough. I've never been told I'm smart enough. I'm the first person to ever graduate college. And they had no self-esteem almost. And then, I work with them throughout the entire time and then see them at the end of walking across the graduation stage with their chest up, their head held high, and their families there supporting them. The same family that I heard the stories of how horrible they were told they were as a child and they'll never amount to anything. And so that was kind of the precipice or what's catapulted me into changing people's lives and helping them accomplish whatever they desire. And so that is my why, is
I
seeing the
love
change in other
that.
people.
Is there anything else that we forgot to mention on the episode?
No, I think my message is if you're struggling and it's that negative self-talk, right? So there's an old folklore where you have a grandfather. He's a Cherokee grandfather, and he's walking with his son. And he's like, son, there's 2 types of wolves. One is the good wolf, one is the bad wolf. And the good wolf tells you that there's abundance, that you're worth everything, and they talk to you like crazy, and they tell you all these positive things. And the bad wolf tells you that you're negative, like that you're just a horrible person, and they just like take you down and they just destroy you in any way, shape, or form that they can. And so the grandson says, well, grandpa, which one wins? Because there's a battle between the good wolf and the bad wolf. And the grandpa says, whichever one you feed. And so, we have millions of thoughts that come across our mind every single day. And it's been scientifically proven that 95% of those are repetitive. And so we constantly are saying the same thing, and most of them, 85%, are negative. And so if you can switch that, there's a method I talk about in the book. It's called the HAS method, and it's HAS. So halt. When you start to think of something negative, you're going to halt. Then you're going to acknowledge your feelings around that and what you're thinking. And then you're going to shift. And you're going to shift from, oh my gosh, I'm so fat, to, oh my gosh, I love the fact that I have the opportunity that I can eat, and then I have food on my table, and I'm happy that I have abundance. And so, you start to try to switch that negative to a positive. And if you can start there, then we can start changing your life. And so that's the part that I just want people to find their happiness and their peace and their joy.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Mm. Thank you for having me.
Uh, Last but not least, what are you grateful for?
I am grateful for, and this is something I probably would not have said several years ago. And when you said it, immediately came to my mind. I'm actually grateful for my husband. It's so easy to take advantage of those people and be very critical of the people around you. But every single day, like as we speak, my husband's fixing a kitchen faucet, and he's fixing like all these different things that I don't have to worry about. I'm grateful for the support that he gives me. I'm grateful for the love that he gives me. And I think that, it's easy to be negative and criticize anyone and everyone around you. But when you start to look for the things that you're grateful for in those people, your relationship completely changes. And so because of that, I'm grateful for my perspective on that has changed actually since writing my book. And I'm grateful for my health. Like I could just keep going. These are things that you just have to. Yeah, I'm not the healthiest of people, but I can get up every single day and walk on 2 feet, and I can use my hands, I can use my brain, I can use my mouth. And so these are things that I watch, and not everybody has that. So I'm grateful for what I have.
Good. Thank you for sharing that with us. Well, it was a pleasure having you in the podcast. I could talk to you forever. The vibe was going. I feel like we talked about so many different perspectives in life, business, and everything. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Conversations with Francie. You can find it in all major podcast platforms as well as my YouTube channel. You know the drill. Like and subscribe. Help this girl out. And then you can find the guest information on the description of the episode. Hope you have a blessed day. Bye bye.